Remember the crazy, dangerous conspiracy theory that the American National Institutes of Health funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China before the COVID-19 pandemic? Remember that? Senator Rand Paul brought the issue to national attention 3 years ago, and Dr. Fauci vehemently denied it.
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute
Do they fund
of Virology.
Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
He's not doing it, and it's totally fine that it is. But in any case, it's not in Wuhan, and you are totally and completely incorrect. After that exchange, even though Paul brought the receipts, all the fact checkers attacked Rand Paul and they defended Dr. Fauci. Big Tech censored the people who agreed with Rand Paul. Then the two of these guys sparred again 2 years ago. Again, a full-throated denial from America's top doctor.
Will you today finally take some responsibility for funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator, with all due respect, I disagree with so many of the things that you've said. First of all, gain of function is a very nebulous term. We have spent, not us, but outside bodies, a considerable amount of effort to give a more precise definition to the type of research that is of concern that might lead to a dangerous situation. You are aware of that. That is called P3CO.
We're aware that you deleted gain-of-function from the NIH website.
Well, I can get back to that in a moment if we have time. But
So when EcoHealth Alliance took the virus, SHC014, and combined it with WIV1 and caused a recombinant virus that doesn't exist in nature, and it made mice sicker, mice that had humanized cells, you're saying that that's not gain-of-function research?
According to the framework and guidelines.
So what you're doing is defining away gain-of-function. No. You're simply saying it doesn't exist because you changed the definition on the NIH website.
So Rand Paul hammers him, brings all these facts. Fauci weakens a little, goes, well, you know, it kind of depends on what the definition of gain of function is, you know, isn't it kind of? And again, the fact checkers come to Fauci's defense. Big tech censors come to Fauci's defense. Same story, despite clear evidence undermining Fauci's claim. Then yesterday, Lawrence Tabak, the principal deputy director of the National Institutes of Health, testified before Congress. And guess what he admitted?
Dr. Tabak, did NIH fund gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology through EcoHealth?
It depends on your definition of gain-of-function research. If you're speaking about the generic term, yes, we did, but this is research. The generic term is research that goes on in many, many labs around the country. It is not regulated. And the reason it's not regulated is it poses no threat or harm to anybody.
Well, it depends on the meaning of the word. If you mean the word in the way that people have always meant it, if you mean like the meaning and the definition of the word, then yes, we absolutely did. But if you mean a totally different definition of the word that does not apply to the word and is not what the word means, then, you know, I don't know. But yeah, if you mean the word, then yeah, we did that. So Rand Paul was right. You know, I hate to say I told you so. I was right. You were right. Fauci was wrong. The fact checkers were wrong. The big tech censors were wrong. And many of them were not just wrong, oopsie daisy, they were deceitful. They lied. And now, years after any of it mattered, when pretty much no one cares, now we get proven right. They admit it. Another conspiracy theory proven to be true, because the truth usually gets out in the end. But that doesn't bother the liars, because none of them will be held to account, and now they will move on to the next hoax. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Harrison Butker continues to cause fallout after his speech at Benedictine College defending Christianity. That it's all anyone can talk about. The View has just come out with a vicious attack on Catholicism. We'll get to that in a second. First, though, we got to talk about Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Once again, Pure Talk is investing in their customers with their own money without charging you an extra penny. I am happy to announce that Pure Talk is now providing international roaming to over 50 countries. As you plan your summer travel, make sure that your wireless provider has you covered at home and abroad. Pure Talk already puts you on America's most dependable 5G network. Now they're offering coverage in over 50 countries as well. Enjoy the freedom of unlimited talk, text, and ample 5G data for just $20 a month with Pure Talk. This is a deal that is hard to beat, costing you less than half of what you'd pay with other networks. Not only is their U.S. customer service team ready to assist you with a seamless switch, but they also have fantastic savings on the latest iPhones and Androids. Are you ready to make a smart switch? Well, then join my cell phone company. I don't own it, but I have the phone and the service. Start saving today. puretalk.com/Knowles, KNWLES, to explore their offers. When you make the switch, you will enjoy an additional 50% off your first month. Do not miss out on the opportunity to save on wireless at home and abroad. puretalk.com/Knowles, puretalk.com/Knowles. While we're talking about Congress, an exchange took place yesterday in Congress that was embarrassing even for that already rather degraded body. This was care of Congressman Jasmine Crockett. She is apparently a U.S. representative from the state of Texas, behaving like a juvenile delinquent.
You just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you don't want to talk about it.
Order.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look it, calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do. So I'm trying to get
Miss
clarification.
Crockett, you're not recognized. Miss Crockett.
I can't hear you with your yelling.
You don't want
calm
me to
down.
Be,
Can you please calm down?
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk noise, and then
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I
Look, Chairman,
come and talk about her, y'all gonna have a problem.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Chair.
I couldn't quite make out the exact words, but I think it was something to the effect of, if y'all come and talk SHIT about her, y'all going to have a problem, or something to that effect. This person should not be allowed to work at a Wendy's, much less in the U.S. Congress. And even that statement is unfair to Wendy's workers. I've frequented many Wendy's over the years, and the vast majority of employees that I've had the pleasure of interacting with have been much more mature and respectful than the average member of Congress, certainly than that woman. Congress is already a kind of a degraded body. It was always built to be that way. It was never built to be the most dignified house of a branch of government, but it's become especially degraded in recent years. The problem here is not that this woman, whatever Crockett, the problem is not that she's combative. The problem is not even that the members get a little boisterous. That happens in the UK too. But consider the difference between prime minister's questions in the UK and whatever that ridiculous display, like it was taking place in the streets of a bad neighborhood yesterday. Consider the difference here. This is just one exchange, a famous one between the conservative John Major and the Democrat, the liberal New Labor Tony Blair back in the 90s. Boisterous, but not the same thing.
Perhaps, Madam Speaker, he would like to tell me whether he has received the support of the 50 MPs who defied his front bench over Maastricht.
Madam Speaker, there's one very big difference. There's one very big difference. Yeah. Oh, no, there's one very big difference. I lead my party, he follows his.
Oh, owned. So that's boisterous. There's cheering. There's jeering. But it's not, y'all talking SHIT, I'm going to come at you and I'm going to, you're out of control. It's not. It's just because one can have a boisterous debate and have it still be elevated and respectful and erudite and serious and have a point. This woman doesn't have any of those things. Jasmine Crockett, very, very pathetic. Not an ounce of wit, nothing twee about it like you get with the Brits. It's just degraded and ugly. How did we get to the point? I think of all the great moments in American statesmanship. Nathan Hale, I regret that I have but one life to lose for my country. Franklin Roosevelt, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Jasmine Crockett, y'all come and talk in SHIT, well, I'm going to come at you, and doesn't quite. One of these things is not like the other. Now, speaking of misuses of language, there's a video that has gone viral, hat tip to our friend over at Libs of TikTok, of a woman explaining how correcting bad grammar, if you are correcting a black person, is racist.
Why grammar policing is racist, part 2. So we talked about AAVE in my last video, so let's talk about how it came to be. In this country and well across any other European colonized nation that had black slavery, teaching slaves how to read and write was illegal, thus creating a generation, and many generations actually, that were functionally illiterate. Fast forward to Jim Crow era South, and black schools were severely underfunded. And their teachers did not really have any criteria to be teaching. They were just doing the best, creating a whole other host of generations that were also illiterate. Fast forward to today, and some of the lowest literacy rates in this country are in black and brown communities. These school systems are racist. How we dictate what is proper English is racist. Yelling at a black and brown person for not speaking English in the way that you want them to be speaking English, even though you've created an entire system to make sure that they did not know how to speak English, that's just racism to me.
That's just racism to this girl, because everything is racism to this girl, even in her own words. Notice, she says it is racist to teach a black person how to speak English correctly. And the reason for that is because historically, black people were not taught to speak English correctly, which is racist. Hold on, what? Her argument is that it is racist to teach black people how to speak English correctly, and also racist not to teach black people how to speak English correctly. Anything you do, if you haven't noticed it yet, among this particular modern type of leftist activist, anything you do is racist. Anything. You can't, well, what if I neither correct nor refuse to correct what if I just don't even talk to the black person? Well, that would be very racist. Well, what if I do talk to the black person, but I don't tell them anything or ask them, what do you do? What do you do? You're stuck. You're rendered speechless, actually, which is the point of all of this. Thank you. That's the point of political correctness and wokeness, all of which is just, those are euphemisms for the logical conclusion of liberalism, which is to get you to shut up and let the libs have all the power. Now, you can take back some power over your company with Ramp. Go to ramp.com/Knowles. When you are running a business, time is money, honey. That is why I'm very excited to introduce you to Ramp. If you are a finance professional looking for a better way to maximize productivity and cut wasteful spending, then Ramp could be for you. Ramp is a corporate card and spend management software designed to help you save time and put money back in your pocket. With Ramp, you can issue cards to every employee with limits and restrictions. You can also stop wasting time at the end of every month by automating your expense reporting. Ramp's accounting software automatically collects receipts and categorizes your expenses in real time, so you don't have to. You will never have to chase down a receipt again, and your employees will no longer spend hours submitting expense reports. The time that you will save each month on employee expenses will allow you to close your books 8 times faster. Ramp is so easy to use. Get started in less than 15 minutes, whether you have 5 employees or 5,000. Now, get $250 when you join Ramp. Go to ramp.com/Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S, ramp.com/Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S, ramp.com/Knowles. Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. Speaking of institutions dumbing down the culture, NBC has just announced a new TV show about queer animals.
The paparazzi really are everywhere.
Everything you were taught as a kid is wrong.
You make me wanna dance.
Gay penguins, bisexual lions, sex-changing clownfish.
This is a queer planet.
Queerness has always existed. It's only in humans that we have such a stigma about it.
The idea of just having 2 fixed sexes is clearly out of style.
Mother Nature is pretty open-minded. Sex is not just for reproduction.
It's clear that no matter where you look on our planet, nature is full of queer surprises.
To be honest, we should all probably get laid a little more than we do.
This stuff happens all over the animal kingdom. It's only among humans that there is a stigma about it. Okay, let's say for a second that that is true. Let's say that there are a lot of gay animals. Animals also rape and eat each other. And it's only among humans that there is a stigma about raping and, eating members of your own species and stuff like that. It's only among humans. Does that mean the animals are right or the humans are right? Does that mean having nothing but bestial instinct and appetite is preferable to having reason, where we can reason about things and like the justice of certain acts? Which is right? Now, I say we have to assume that their premises are true here just for the sake of argument, but the premises are pretty suspect. They've been trying to push this for years. I remember years, I think decades ago at this point, they found a couple of penguins, male penguins at the Central Park Zoo who, held flippers one time, and they said, see, they're gay penguins. Look at these gay penguins or whatever. And a lot of the studies about the gay animals are dubious, let's say. But even if they were true, so what? Well, all that means is that we're exalting behavior that is conducted by irrational beasts who do all sorts of terrible things like rape and eat and murder each other all the time. And we wouldn't defend those behaviors because we recognize that there are two meanings to the word normal. And I guess that's the sleight of hand that the liberals are using here. They're saying all this kind of behavior is normal. I don't really know where they get the transgenderism in the animal kingdom other than animals that are by nature hermaphroditic. But I don't know. I don't think there are too many zebras going in and getting, things chopped off. But the sleight of hand is this double meaning of the word normal, because normal can refer to the common behavior of a group, and normal can also refer to an abstract standard to which we aspire, which we try to uphold. Norms, like standards and norms. And those things are rather different. The reason those things are different is because this is a fallen world. The dual meaning of the word normal, in fact, is one evidence or one way that we all implicitly acknowledge original sin, because we know that the world ought to be different than it is. Something is broken and fallen about the world. But when we, as human beings who do have abstract reason, who can think about justice, and we all, even if you want to deny that there is such a thing as reason or objective truth, we all behave as though there is, because we put human beings on trial for and murder and violations of justice. We don't put gorillas on trial. We don't put zebras on trial. We don't put penguins on trial, because that would be wrong, because we acknowledge that they don't have use of reason, and we acknowledge that human beings do have use of reason, even if we abuse our reason and explicitly deny our reason. We still behave, because we have courts of justice and society, we still behave as though that is real. And so we recognize that chasm, and we endeavor to live in according with higher norms, with the norms of how we ought to live, not with merely how things are, until it comes to everybody's favorite weird appetite. And then that one's totally okay. Often it expresses itself in weird sex stuff, because sex is very important to human beings, but it can be anything. It could be an appetite for a drug, or an appetite for food, or an appetite for whatever. Sloth, and we say, it's normal. It's okay. It's normal. We try to write that one out. But no, there is common behavior in a fallen world, but there's also the behavior that we know we ought to exhibit because we have reason and conscience. So we can deny that, but that makes us no higher than the beasts. And the beasts do all sorts of nasty things. Now, speaking of pop culture, I have just seen what I think is, without question, the lamest clip ever to be recorded over the past century. And that would be Joe Biden's Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, playing guitar and singing a Neil Young song in Kiev, in his official position as Secretary of State. I can't take it anymore. Enough. Stop it, please. Because he's not even... It's so awful. It's so cringe. But he's not even doing the voice right. Like, he's singing the song as bad singers do. I do this myself. He's singing the song an octave down. But if you're going to do the Neil Young song, this like sort of ugly, lame, boomer Neil Young song, you might as well do the keep on rocking in a free world. Almost cut my hair. There is a town. Right? At least do the thing. But he's not even doing it. He's just doing the lamest possible version in Kiev. Oh, yeah, that's going to scare off Putin. Hey, Russians, turn around. We got to get out of here. Tony Blinken's singing boomer hippie songs. Oh, no. It called to mind what I had previously thought was the lamest clip to go around, which was in 2015, the then Secretary of State, the lib John Kerry, deciding to console France in the wake of a terror attack by flying out James Taylor.
Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you got to do is call, and I will be there, yes, I'll be there. You got a friend, torna miela. Now ain't it great to know you got a friend when people can be so cold?
So this was really weird and pathetic too, and the little French word in there, and ain't it great to know you got a friend? Like, no, give us weapons and stuff. Help us deal with the crazy Muslim terrorists. We don't need James Taylor. And by the way, that was James Taylor. James Taylor is a good musician. James Taylor was the first musician signed by the Beatles when they started a record label. Okay, at least it's gotten so much worse that we don't even they didn't even fly out Neil Young. It's just Tony Blinken croaking out this lame hippie song. Well, guess what, folks? Ditties sung by old hippies are not going to solve political problems in the world. Maybe that's the problem with Biden's grand strategy. Biden thinks that the way you solve geopolitical problems is by ripping a bong and just groove into the vibes of some old hippies who think that their acoustic guitar is going to bring world peace. Ain't going to happen. Didn't work in the 60s. Didn't work in 2015. Not working now for Joe Biden. Going to need to figure out something else. These guys are not geniuses running our political order. But you could be. That's why you got to check out Working Genius. Go to workinggenius.com, code Knowles. Far too many people are unproductive and unfulfilled in their jobs. Too many teams fail to maximize productivity and achieve great results. That is why Patrick Lencioni, the author of The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, created Working Genius. This 10-minute assessment is revolutionizing the way managers and leaders think about teamwork and productivity. For individuals, Working Genius is the simplest and fastest way to discover your gifts and better understand the type of work you thrive in. It provides detailed insights into your areas of genius, along with an easy-to-apply report that will help you leverage this information in your work and life. For teams, Working Genius helps maximize productivity and fulfillment. Ask everyone on your team to take the assessment and generate a custom team map to reveal strengths and potential weaknesses. You will be amazed at the results. This will quickly help you understand where and why your team gets stuck and how to leverage one another to achieve more together. The 6 types of Working Genius has been used by nearly 1 million people since its launch in 2020. It is quickly becoming the tool of choice for teams and organizations that want to maximize their productivity, fulfillment, and results. It is being leveraged in just about every single industry imaginable. And right now, you can do it too with workinggenius.com, code Knowles, Knowles, at checkout for 20% off this $25 assessment. That is workinggenius.com, code Knowles. My favorite comment yesterday is from Chestnut Mouse 6823. Biden had the gullions to make he wrote a different word, but I'll clean it up a little. Biden had the gullions to make a joke about Trump being politically prosecuted. I hope Trump calls that out. He has called it out. He is calling it out. Trump has called out the political persecution, forget prosecution, persecution, since day one. And Biden and the Democrats have all kind of laughed about it. Obama kind of laughed about it back when it was Obama doing it in 2015. And now Biden's laughing about it because they feel that they got the power and they're not going to have to pay a price for it. Okay, they'll all keep calling it out, but we got to get some political power to really deal with it. Okay, I mentioned that ISIS or some kind of Islamic attack on France. Speaking of political attacks, we have one closer to home on the religion that formed our civilization, the true religion. The View is attacking Christianity. Specifically, The View is attacking Catholicism. And it's not even the huge libs like Sunny Hostin or Joy Behar. It's this woman, Sarah Haynes. She is supposedly the moderate on The View. And she was incensed by Harrison Butker's speech at Benedictine College. So she went on this diatribe against Catholicism.
Colin Kaepernick was standing up for the rights of many and saying in a social justice moment, this is a reminder that we're not there yet. What this man is doing is not just a devout Catholic. This is someone who's practicing something called the traditional Latin Mass, which is divergent from the majority of Catholics. It's compared to being cult-like and extremist like some religions in the Middle East and Asia. So this is a very extreme religion, and what bothers me about that as a Christian is that when people abuse Christianity, they often not only cherry pick from the Bible, they misinterpret and lie by omission, by taking out parts that would have explained something a little better. So what I can say to him as a Christian is if you're using this to oppress a people or hold them down, you're not walking with Jesus. If you are using the religion, if you are more obsessed with the religious rituals and practices than you are with the word of Jesus, you're not walking with Jesus. And if you're using it for the judgment of others and as a weapon to beat people down, you're also not walking with Jesus. So I would really encourage him to find the best parts of faith and not diverge into extremist belief.
So declares Pope Sarah Haynes. Nihil obstat. So much of, virtually everything she said there was wrong. Her knowledge of Christianity seems to be a little weak here. She says, look, he's a devout Catholic, this Harrison Butker, but he's not just a devout Catholic. He practices something called the traditional Latin Mass. First of all, there is no religion called the traditional Latin Mass. She's referring to the Mass, like the Mass, like you have a church service. Well, the Catholics have the Mass, the holy sacrifice of the Mass. There is a liturgy that has been the Mass of the ages. This is a liturgy that was pretty much totally formed by about the year 600, the year of our Lord, and which has endured up until the present. The traditional Latin Mass is the Mass that has formed virtually all of the saints of history. It is a Mass that was somewhat pushed to the side after, not just after the Second Vatican Council, but specifically after the liturgical reforms that came after the Second Vatican Council. There was a new Mass that was promulgated, the Mass of Pope Paul VI, and it was a little more watered down, let's say. Still the Mass, though, and there have been the traditional Latin Mass has been practiced really ever since then. And is recognized by the Vatican. This is not some breakaway sect or anything like this. It's referred to as the extraordinary form of the Mass, not just in schismatic groups, but in the Catholic Church, because this is the Mass of the ages, which Saint Pius V said will always be available to you. Okay? So when she attacks the traditional Latin Mass, she is attacking the faith. She's attacking the Mass of the ages, the Mass of virtually all of the saints. And then she even goes further. She says, look, he's very devout, but he practices this thing which is very devout. He practices this thing that is very orthodox. He practices this thing that has typified the church and accepted the perennial teachings of the church. So what's her upshot here? Her upshot is, she says, look, these guys, they pick and choose from the Bible. But they shouldn't pick and choose the stuff that I don't like. They should pick and choose the stuff that I like. What she's really confessing that in her version of the religion, she picks and chooses. Who do you think has a better grasp on Christianity? The perennial teaching of the church going back to Jesus Christ, our Lord who instituted it, in an unbroken line that we can document for 2,000 years, or Pope Sarah Haynes, Bishopress Sarah, who, she doesn't like certain verses of the Bible. She certainly doesn't like liturgy, or she just kind of, she kind of gets it, man. She vibes with it and everything. Who do you think has a better grasp of Christianity? Seems pretty clear to me. What she's really saying here is that liberal Protestantism is okay, but all the other flavors of Christianity, certainly Catholicism, those pesky Catholics, she's got a big problem with them. But presumably even the Eastern Orthodox, presumably even conservative Protestants, they are not to be tolerated. Only liberal Protestantism, meaning the kind of Christianity that is entirely based on individual choice and preference, with no sense of any other authority, be it magisterial, be it episcopal, and specifically, it's the individual authority of Sarah Haynes. So ironically, it seems like she's attacking, the Pope, or it seems like she's attacking the magisterium of the Catholic Church, but she's not attacking it in principle. She's just replacing the Pope with herself. She's making herself the Pope, which is one of the fears of liberal religion, is that you don't undercut tradition exactly. You don't totally abolish tradition and the hierarchy and the bishops and the Pope. You just make yourself a Pope. And you rewrite scripture as you want, you rewrite the liturgy as you want, and you invent your own gods is really what you do. Now, what's amazing is that Whoopi Goldberg on the panel is the voice of reason, and she actually comes to the defense of Harrison Butker.
So the NFL released a statement that he gave this speech in his personal capacity, and the NFL does not share his views. So, listen, I like when people say what they need to say. He's at a Catholic college. Yeah. He's a staunch Catholic. These are his beliefs, and he's welcome to them. I don't have to believe them. Right. I don't have to accept them. The ladies that were sitting in that audience do not have to accept them. The same way we want respect when Colin Kaepernick takes a knee. Right. We want to give respect to people whose ideas are different from ours, because the man who says he wants to be president, you know who? Yeah. He says the way to act is to take away people's right to say how they feel. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be those people. So I'm okay with him saying whatever he says, and the women who are sitting there, if they take his advice, good for them, they'll be happy. If they don't, good for them, they'll be happy a different way. That's my attitude.
Yeah, she's got the anti-Trump hits in there, but generally, Whoopi's totally right here. She goes, yo, guys, hey, Sarah, hey, Pope Sarah. He's a Catholic guy at a Catholic college talking to Catholic students and Catholic parents, and he just expressed Catholicism. The only things he really argued that he's really getting in trouble for here in that speech are he defended Catholicism, he defended Christianity, and he said marriage makes people happy. And for that, all the libs lost their minds. Whoopi being the voice of reason. Kind of crazy, but that's what happened. As she alluded to, though, the NFL is furious at Kaepernick. They've just condemned him. The NFL came out, said, actually, wow, this is crazy. So the NFL comes out, they disavow him. They say, we don't agree with his speech. This is terrible. And so, of course, the NFL is super lib. They're radical leftists. This is why I'm so happy I've never been a football fan. Okay, the only sport I follow is Major League Baseball. They've gone a little bit squishy sometimes, but generally they're pretty reasonable. Even the city of Kansas City is going after this guy. And they're not just attacking him, they are doxing him. Kansas City tweets out, just a reminder that Harrison Butker lives in, and it's a city, I guess it's public now, City of Lee's Summit. And then, so they dox the guy, the city, the government of Kansas City. Then they come out and they say, we apologize for our previous tweet. It was shared in error. We apologize. So not only is the Kansas City government criminal, it's also illiterate. No surprise there. We apologize. Whoops. But this is what happens. Because liberalism is a jealous God. It will have no other gods before it. And if you dare to believe in Christianity, certainly if you practice Christianity as it has traditionally been practiced for 2,000 years, if you believe what Christians have believed for 2,000 years, oh, buddy, not only are we going to condemn you, not only are we going to try to take your job away, not only are we going to try to destroy your reputation, we'll try to kill you too. We'll dox you, and we'll send a mob to your house to kill you. We, the government, will do that. That's what happens. Which pretty much proves his whole speech. Because that was the whole speech. To be Christian is to be countercultural. If everyone in the world loves you, if all the powers and principalities of the world love you, and you're a Christian, you're probably not doing something right. This Sunday, prepare for an all-new episode of Mr. Bircham, the Daily Wire's groundbreaking animated sitcom. Join the comedic genius of Adam Carolla, Megyn Kelly, Roseanne Barr, Jay Moore, Patrick Warburton, Danny Trejo, our very own Brett Cooper, and an all-star cast at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, exclusively on Daily Wire Plus. If you missed the series premiere last Sunday night, catch up now. Or if this is your first time hearing, we launched a hilarious animated sitcom from Adam Carolla. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Bircham. He's the no-nonsense junior high woodshop teacher, struggling to navigate a world he doesn't understand or approve of, constantly clashing with his gamer son, snowflake students, and most notably, the school's spirited Jedi officer, Mr. Carponzi. Jedi stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, in case you were wondering. Trust me, you will not be a fan of Mr. Carponzi. I repeat, episodes 1 and 2 are streaming now, with new episodes released every Sunday exclusively on Daily Wire Plus. Do not miss out on the laughter, the lessons, and of course, the lumber. For a limited time, get 25% off all Daily Wire Plus annual memberships with code BIRCHAM25 at checkout, dailywireplus.com. Finally, I've arrived at my favorite time of the week when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. Our mailbag is sponsored by Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S, to explore their offers. When you make the switch, you will enjoy an additional 50% off your first month. Take it away.
What's up, Michael? I am 17 years old. I just finished up my junior year of high school, and obviously college is coming up. I've always been taught that college is there to protect you for a job, you know, but I'm kind of convinced by your view or the traditional view of college that it's there to educate you. That you go to get educated in the Western tradition of philosophy, theology, whatever it is. So I'll get right to the point. What do you recommend, if you were to make a recommendation, for me to get my degree in if I was so convinced to go to college for these reasons? I might not go right out of high school, might be later and 5 or 10 years down the road. But what kind of courses should I take? What degree should I chase after? Your answer would be greatly appreciated, and thank you for all that you do.
Really good question. Glad you came to that conclusion. It depends a little bit about your college. Or it depends on your college, rather. My college was known especially for the history department and the English and humanities departments. And I was always interested in history. And of all those departments, the history department, which had still somewhat gone to the left, was considered to be one of the most normal and not totally eccentric departments at that school. I don't know that it still remains that way. But in any case, I said, okay, I'm going to be a history major. In part because of my own interest and desire, in part because history is a relatively conservative field, and in part because the school was known for that and known for having a relatively normal history department. I had a double major just because I happened to have enough credits and was able to do a thesis in Italian literature. So I picked that up, and the Italian literature, the Italian language teachers were great too at Yale, but the Italian department had some really amazing people in it, up to and including the most prominent professor, who was one of the great Dante scholars, and I love Dante. So I said, okay, I love Dante. I already have the language. I can work on these other trends. Okay, great, I'll do that too. So it was in part about circumstance and in part about desire. That's what I would do at your school. Let's say you really love, English literature, but the humanities department, which is sometimes like a literature department, but they take other things in, is really, really good at your college. Well, and it's a little bit more conservative and normal. Okay, maybe you pick that one. But you follow desire. I mean, this is, to bring up Dante, like this is part of Dante's theory of education. Education coming from the Latin verb ducere, which means to lead. And Dante is led through Inferno and through Purgatory up into heaven. And it's a process of his education and his conversion. Well, what draws him on? It's not just an abstract kind of reasoning. It's certainly not a calculation to get a job. It's love. It's love. It's desire. So you want to follow that a little bit too. Okay, next question.
Hey, Michael. Pure Pazak here.
I'm a 27-year-old Midwesterner now living in Bethlehem, Connecticut. I studied poli-sci and econ while in university, but ended up dropping out because I was more interested in partying than I was in studying for gen eds. I enlisted in the Navy and volunteered for the submarine service. This is where I learned the value of a hard day's work and the importance of truth and clarity. I finished my contract and now have a good-paying job in IT. While I'm not discontent with a 9-to-5 like some of our lazy leftist friends, I feel the same sort of calling that I felt when I left university. I feel compelled to do my part in retaking the traditional political order and restoring American greatness in any way that I can. Are there any traditional or conservative NGOs, research institutes, or other such entities in the legal world that you would recommend looking into for potential internships or eventual employment for someone in my circumstance? I can't be the only one trying to fight the good fight. Thanks, Michael.
Sure. There are a lot. I mean, the first one that comes to my head is America First Legal, which was founded by Stephen Miller. It's a relatively new organization that focuses on, I believe it's nonprofit, and it focuses on, conservative, Republican, right-wing lawfare. So that would seem like a pretty good one. There's some really prominent conservative lawyers out there who do all sorts of great work in private practice, but also in politics. I think of like Harmeet Dillon, for instance, who almost became the head of the RNC. She does a lot of work. She's represented us before, and here at the Daily Wire, and but a lot of prominent conservatives. Trump was just singing her praises the other day. So those groups stand out. There are a lot of others. I don't want to offend the other groups by just naming a few of them and not all of them, but the reason that America First Legal comes to mind is it's just been so in the news lately. But many, many others. So you just have to decide exactly what you want. Do you want to work in nonprofit kind of conservative law? Do you want to defend conservative politicians and operatives, maybe more in private practice? Do you want to work in an administration? I mean, those are different paths, all of which are very important, some of which will just be based on your preference and desire. Next question.
Good morning, Michael. This is Arun. So a couple days ago, Vivek Ramaswamy did an interview with Ann Coulter in which she said that although she agrees with all of Vivek's policies, she wouldn't vote for him because he is Indian. Now, I'm sure the entire left and half the right are busy calling her racist this morning. However, she actually elaborated on her position a fair bit, and she expressed a concern that immigrants, and even the children of immigrants, people like Vivek or myself, might be indoctrinated into certain views that aren't uniquely American. They may not understand our opinions on free speech or freedom of religion or the right to bear arms. And she even said that she would probably vote for Vivek's children, so whatever her position is, it isn't racist. Now, I am curious, do you think there is any legitimacy to Ann's views, specifically to her concern about people who either immigrated here or who are the children of immigrants being handed the reins of power?
Yes, yeah, there is. I'll probably get in trouble for agreeing with Ann, but she's insightful and on a lot of things, and she's right about that. And I think you make a great point, Arun. It's not just coming from some, totally irrational racism or bigotry or whatever. She has a point that civic education is something that does not only take place over one generation. Okay? There is a creedal aspect to America, without question. You see it on the Mayflower, you see it in the American Revolution, you see it in subsequent ages. But America is not just an idea. It's a place with habits and with geography and with history and with peoples who have come at different times for different reasons and developed in different ways. And you just kind of get some of that into your bones. Some of that knowledge is not totally conscious and is somewhat inherited and just ingrained through habit. So if you're fresh off the boat, you're probably not going to have that. Okay? It's kind of like the argument for hereditary monarchy and why hereditary monarchies can often be more stable than tin pot dictatorships, say, in the banana republics. Because like the Windsors have been bred for generations to just do the stuff that the monarchs are supposed to do. Maybe you love the monarchy, maybe you hate the monarchy. That's not even the point. They're good at being monarchs. They're good. They just know things. There is a kind of institutional, generational knowledge that comes from that you can't just read in a book. This is why the tin pot dictators in Latin America or the Middle East, they don't really last. They don't tend to institute those long kind of dynasties. There is something to that. You gotta You got to stew in a culture for a longer period of time, probably, to catch all of the nuances. There's nothing bigoted about observing that. Next question.
Hi, Michael. Big fan of the show. I was wondering if you can give me your perspective on something. On X, formerly Twitter, there's a lot of material. I had sent a tweet over to Elon Musk asking if he will remove all the material from X. But what is your view on this in terms of a freedom of speech issue? I know that the graphic images are harmful and that children will have easy access to this. So I don't believe that this is something that should be covered in the freedom of speech. But I know the people will argue against it in the form of art, saying that it is similar to the Renaissance paintings and the appreciation of the human form, even if it is taken in a grotesque way. But what is your view on that? Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you.
So, great question. Is not protected by free speech because it is obscene. And we can distinguish from art rather easily, actually. You know, to quote, what was it, Justice Potter Stewart, it's hard to define, but you know it when you see it. So the way that we do that now through America's legal system, and it's somewhat unfortunate because I think we should have an even lower threshold for obscenity. I think we ought to be able to regulate obscenity more easily than we do today. But it's called the Miller test. This comes from 1973. There are three prongs to it. The first one is, would an average person applying contemporary community standards find that this content appeals to the prurient interest? Would this content, is it just, libidinous? Is it just intended to excite lusts? Does the work depict in an offensive way something that is sexual, say? And then does the work lack serious artistic or scientific merit? Those are the three prongs of the Miller test. And so unfortunately, it's got to satisfy all three of those criteria to be deemed obscene. This stuff you're seeing on Twitter right now absolutely does. So yeah, we got to get rid of it. No question about it. Okay, there's much more to say, and I have a special guest. It's all coming up right now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.